Hello and welcome to the latest of my deep dive videos. Today I'm going to explore the journey of Venus through the sign of Cancer, which begins on the 7th of May 2023 and goes on for around about 28 days through to the 5th of June. Now, if you're new to my channel, it's great to have you with us. This is very much a community, so please do share any thoughts you have, and I'd be honoured if you'd subscribe. If you're a returning visitor, thank you so much for joining me once more. Now, I'm just going to give you a brief outline of how I'm going to structure the video. First up, I'm going to look at the archetypes of Venus through the rulership of the two planets that it governs, which is, of course, Taurus and also Libra. I'm then going to share what we can expect from Venus's influence in Cancer during that time, but then go on to explore the key influences that it forges with other planets through its journey. Also, when an event begins, we get the event chart. So I'm going to share with you what the solar chart tells us, which we can all collectively relate to in terms of the overall zodiac, but also the event chart itself based on Placidus. Now that has an ascendant in the sign of Virgo, and it puts Venus in the 10th house, which is a very visible location. But Pluto is going to be really critical on this event, and I'm going to explain to you exactly why. So over the around about 28 days of this journey, the influence of Venus will be paramount. Finally, please stay with me. I will go through each of the 12 zodiac signs from Aries through to Pisces to give you a flavour of what you can expect in terms of your sun or your ascendant. Now, if you would like to engage with the power of real astrology, if you give me 3 pieces of your personal birth data, of time, date and place of birth, I can provide for you through my Life Roadmap report an in-depth understanding of the patterns that have been playing out in your life since you were born, the good ones and the more challenging ones, so you can get a more intimate understanding. In my special package of 30% off, you can also get your 12-month personal forecast. Totally unique to you, and this will give you searing insights. If you don't know your time, I've prepared a new set of reports based on the sun, which, if you like watching sun sign videos on YouTube, will work really well for you. Same basis, you get 2 charts, but you get the discount of 30% with those. Please see the link below. Finally, if you would like to get your free zodiac forecast fired to your device each morning, please also subscribe for that. Totally free. I've been writing these for about 28 years, so I think I'm pretty unique amongst the YouTube astrologers. And these give you an overall flavour. You can sign up for your sun and your ascendant, or one or the other, of what you can expect on each day. So first up, let's have a little look at exactly when that Venus will move into the sign of Cancer on the 7th. It's at 2:25 p.m. Universal Time, and as ever, I'm basing my charts on Greenwich. Now, it's set to leave on the 5th of June, which is the usual kind of journey, the 28 days, but once it does leave on the 5th of June, it's going to be in the sign of Leo for a really extended period through to the 8th of October. So that's one of the most giant influences of this year. But what about the home of Cancer? I feel that those words is very redolent of what Cancer is about. Venus's themes, through its rulership of Taurus and Libra, very much about money, self-worth, our values, can be about sensuality, desire, charm, cultivation, fashion, appearance, relationships, of course. But the sign of Cancer is governed by the moon. And ironically, on this event, the moon is actually located in the free-spirited sign of Sagittarius. But obviously the sign of Cancer is very much known to be a lover of the home, working perhaps on the decorative quality of our immediate environment, whether it's in or outdoors. So if we're in the northern hemisphere and the weather's improving, it could be beautifying the garden. If you're down south and you're starting to feel the chill, you may be thinking of doing some changes in terms of your furnishings or redecorating. But that could be true, of course, in the north too. But property matters generally, I feel, because Venus is about money, can be on our minds collectively, but also those family interactions. A sense of protectiveness and privacy is a big feature of the sign of Cancer. Sensitivity, of course, and nurture, very caring. So warmth and a more atmospheric vibe. So around our relationships, whether it is to do with our professional relationships or our personal relationships, those are the qualities that are going to call out to us, or we're going to become more starkly aware of not receiving from others. But let's have a little look at those key aspects that we can expect through the journey. Well, as we go into this event, Venus in the sign of Gemini has been in a glorious alliance with Jupiter and quite a confusing one with Neptune. So if you have been on the end of some gossip this week, or you're trying to get to know someone and they seem rather mysterious and a little bit hard to pin down, despite the potential for fortune that Venus and Jupiter can create, I feel as we go into week 2 of the month of May, and exactly on the 13th, we have a very stabilising link between Venus and Saturn, both in water signs, Saturn in Pisces. So that can help us to be appreciative of the things we have got, whether it's to do with money and security, or whether it's to do with a relationship that has a sense of continuity and stability to it. But also from the 10th through to the 15th of May, and again exact on the 13th, Venus is forging a lovely alliance with the retreating Mercury in the sign of Taurus. So obviously Earth carries water really well, so that can be some conversations, perhaps to do with the home, some changes we might want to make, some upgrades, or actually move in altogether. But from the 23rd to the 29th of May, Venus is in a very lovely angle with Uranus. And this is because Venus is moving forwards. It's heading towards the latter part of the sign of Cancer. And this link is very enlivening, what we're looking for in our relationships, or even around our financial decisions, is a sense of excitement and doing things in a fresh and innovative way. There's also a lovely link with Neptune as the month draws to a close, and the first week of June, which becomes exact on the 2nd. If you did meet somebody new and they really were a very nurturing and caring person, and you felt there was that gentle, almost unspoken sensory simpatico between you, then that is a really lovely influence to have. Actually, that influence in the sign of Cancer with Neptune in Pisces occurred when Alyssa and I had our first date. That was August the 11th, about 6 years ago, so that's interesting. But then as June evolves from the 2nd to the 9th, we get the trickiest of all the aspects, and this is an opposition with Pluto. But why this is really fascinating, I think this is going to be a culminating influence, because when this process starts, Venus is in a quincunx with Pluto. That's a 150-degree angle where it's difficult to achieve integration, but the opposition is very strident. So there may be something early in June that someone offers us. It could be around a professional situation, it could be in a relationship context, where it appears to be very persuasive, very compelling. It really feels good, but actually there may be some kind of hidden leverage going on through the more psychological and scheming energies of Pluto. But that could be something that's going to go on for the whole of this period, because of Venus's quincunx to Pluto at the outset. So Venus in the collective house 4 of Cancer, this is needing to compete with Pluto very early in the sign of Aquarius, but also in retrograde. So the sign of Aquarius is about the group, the network, and Venus is about our individual needs for nurture. So it could be around a relationship that it feels that one partner's more caught up in their social life or their interests than the actual needs of the relationship. Or it could be that, you know, there may be someone you're really drawn to in your friendship group, but for one reason or another, it just seems a little bit elusive. So just be aware that Pluto is going to have a big impact. So just a quick tour de force around that event chart, which you can see on the screen now. So the ascendant is at 23 degrees and 56 minutes in the sign of Virgo, which can be very service orientated, but you can see, crucially, Venus therefore is right at the top of the scope in the 10th house. So really the 10th house has opposite values to the 4th house of the sign of Cancer. So it's not really mutually receptive being there, but I think what it says to us that to deal with our professional situations collectively at the moment, if we can use a degree of decorum, charm, persuasion, that's going to be in our interest. But you can see down in house 5 there's Pluto, so an absolute quincunx, which is going to be a backdrop for the next 28 days. In a more positive context, the midpoint is towards the end of the sign of Aquarius, actually forges a trine to Venus. So I feel that, you know, good things can develop from this event. Saturn's in a pretty good angle to Venus, Jupiter still in a nice angle to Venus, and it's just really about using the nurturing but also cardinal energies of Cancer, which is about taking decisions, and sometimes the sign of Cancer is a bit reluctant to open up and engage with issues. So perhaps in that way Pluto is going to be prompting Venus around relationships that may be bumping along the bottom a bit, not to try to hide away from the issues, but actually to confront them head on. Now on the screen now we have the event chart based on the solar situation. Now of course this, as I said before, puts Pluto in 11 and there's Venus in 4. So pretty self-evident that, you know, we're being asked to work with the nurturing energies of Cancer, but through the Placidus chart be aware that our relationships are going to be at the top of our agenda, but also our relationships around where we live, because the sign of Cancer is very much about security of a physical as well as emotional kind, and the 10th house can be about building. So I think it's going to be a lot of discussions around interest rates on mortgage, whether the property market is holding up in different parts of the world or not. I think we are going to continue to see a contraction. It's not showing itself in Great Britain because we have such a uniquely hybrid market, which is totally unbalanced. But in other countries, property prices are trimming back. In the UK, the cost of rentals and the cost of mortgage payments still extraordinarily high. And I think that's going to be under the astral microscope for the next 28 days too. Now, please stay with me as I go through each of the 12 zodiac signs, from Aries through to Pisces, to give you a flavour of what you can expect in relation to your sun or your ascendant. So Aries, for you, having Venus in house 4, it's just a little bit of a prompt to stay in touch with how things feel. Remember, that is a theme for this year, because although you've had all this energy in your sign through the two new moons, one of them an eclipse in Aries, and of course you've had Jupiter in a very delightful journey through your sign along with Chiron. Saturn's parked up in your 12th house. So the story really since the 7th of March is that as much as you can get on the front foot and be more go-getting, you have to be very much aware of the things that could make way, perhaps to do with your past, or the need to tackle some issues that may not be quite sorted out in terms of your emotional situation or history. So I think Venus is asking you to think about where you live, how you live there, and with whom, and also think about your sense of your environment. So if you're someone who's long wanted to live near water, you may take the steps to make that happen over the next 3 or 4 weeks. If you're somebody who likes a much more exciting and buzzy lifestyle, If you are drawn out into the social world, you're still going to want to go to places that you feel very relaxed in. So don't be surprised if some old haunts really, and those more familiar places, really call out to you most of all. Now Taurus, of course, for you, Venus is your ruler. So having it in house 3, don't be surprised over the next 28 days if someone hangs on almost your every word. So that's exciting. If you've got a message that you want to share with others, expect to grow your audience. You've also got a link between Uranus and the Sun on this event. So you've been innovating a lot in recent years, or if you've been resisting change, perhaps that's created quite a lot of tension. So you are being asked to have conversations, discussions with people, and the more open you are to people's points of view, the 3rd house, the better it is. Expect to have greater interaction with siblings, or perhaps with people immediately around you in your community. You could even find yourself pitching in to some kind of community or collaborative venture and play a leading role. Now Gemini, for you, of course, Venus moving into house 2 could be very good for your finances. What I feel that Pluto is saying to you in house 9 is don't go mad with any gains that you get. Make sure that you stay a little bit rooted, because Venus moving into the 2nd house almost always triggers some kind of uptick. It may be something that you've been working on for a very long time. It could be a stroke of fortune, but Pluto's just saying just stay a little bit moderate, particularly on anything that may be more speculative. Now Cancer, for you, Venus moving into your sign is a great opportunity to give yourself a glorious makeover. For the next week, until Mars makes its way on the 20th into the sign of Leo, you can really dazzle people with your get-go. So expect to really feel a real upturn in your sense of attractiveness, and you may give your wardrobe a little bit of a sort out. Maybe some stuff will go off to a charity shop, and maybe you will, if it's possible, refresh your personal appearance with some new gear. So I think that's something that you can get a great deal of satisfaction from. But if you're single and you would like to meet someone, don't be surprised if more than one person is beating a path to your celestial door over the next 28 days. Now Leo, for you, Venus has moved into house 12, very much to do with reflection. If a relationship isn't quite working in the way that you want, because of the angle to Pluto, it's possible that you will assert some worries or anxieties that have been cooking away on the back burner in a way that a partner is surprised about. Or maybe you're just going to be thinking even more deeply of whether this is a tie that you want to continue to be involved with. Now once Mars moves into your sign on the 20th, that's going to give you a burst, not of belligerence, but certainly of conviction and drive. And of course, once Venus moves into your sign, I think you're set to have an exciting time romantically from the 5th of June right through to the early part of October. Could be that one relationship will be a bit off and on, some new players can buzz around you, but for now, I think it is a time of deep reflection. Virgo, for you, Venus moving into the sign of Cancer is about friendship. We can all focus on the things we don't get in relationships, all sorts of relationships, and because you're someone who has got a very great attunement to the detail of things, little things can upset your equilibrium. So what Venus, remember the ruler of the sign of Libra, very much about related, is asking you to do is celebrate the things you have in common with people. That's not to say you should park entirely the things you're dissatisfied with, but work on that commonality, because that is something that you can celebrate in the weeks to come. Libra, now of course Venus is your ruler, but the exciting thing for you is moving into the 10th house, where it joins up the assertive and very dynamic energies of Mars, is that you can now apply not just the thrust of Mars, but the sheen, the rather more sophisticated presentational skills in relation to your career. So if you're wanting to raise your profile, the chances are you can do so very successfully over the next 28 days. So if that means picking up the phone, trying to reach out to decision makers, applying for jobs, doing presentations, that mixture initially of Venus and Mars can give you a lot of thrust and drive, but also the subtlety, which is very much part of your sign, to cultivate some important contacts. Now, Scorpio, for you, Venus moving into your sister water sign is all about the truth. You've got your traditional ruler Mars here, which has made you more adventurous, rugged, and wanting to break out rather more. And it is true that Mars is still in touch with Uranus, so it's a very, very dynamic aspect. I did an inside track on that, and that's pushing you to show a little bit more devilment in your approach. But what Venus will do is give you a higher desire to get to the bottom of what a relationship is truly about. And if there has been some confusion over the last week, which wouldn't be a surprise, because Venus in the 8th house tangling with Neptune in your 5th house of romance may have seen you totally enthralled with someone who really made your pulse race, but whether you got to know what they were really about or not is another matter. If you still don't know and you want to find out, you will find out in the next 28 days. Which brings us to the sign of Sagittarius. Now, you're very lucky because this change is going to activate 8th house energy, which in itself is very Scorpionic, but it's also hot and intense. Of course, Mars being in the 8th house is very much in keeping with the energies of the traditional rulership of Mars, of the sign of Scorpio. So if you're wanting to have greater enrichment around intimacy, that could be something that really engages you over the next 28 days. However, if you're much more focused on the material plane, Venus in the 8th house is great for business. If you're an entrepreneur, if you wanted to squeeze a bit more from your budget, if you've got some longer term assets, savings plans, pensions that could be tweaked in some way, Venus and Mars give you a lot of encouragement to go for it. Capricorn, Venus moving into your opposite sign is terrific. But of course, with Pluto in your 2nd house, in that angle to Venus, however much you like someone, however much you're enchanted by them, however much their personality or presentational aura absolutely bewitches you, Pluto is saying, don't go there unless your values are well aligned with theirs, because if they're not, that can be an issue. In an existing relationship, if you've got a different approach to consuming life's goodies, like you like to have a good time, quite jolly time, and your partner has got a more aesthetic vibe, that could be a little bit of a tense energy in the weeks to come. And also, if you've got different approaches to money, you know, the everyday budget, or you've got different values, even in an existing relationship, those may become more obvious in the next few weeks. But generally, for Capricorn people, this is a delightful transit because Venus in the 7th house speaks to that Libran energy. So it's all about trying to find a point of harmony, that midpoint between getting what you need, but also being conscious and leaning into what your partner needs from you. But the proverbial celestial fly in the ointment is Pluto in the 2nd house. Now, Aquarius, Venus moving into the 6th house is a bit dull, to be honest. This is great if you want to take a very pragmatic approach to your relationship, serve your partner breakfast in bed, do a bit of hoovering, wash up, put the washing on, cut the lawn. If you do all of that by midday, you'll be making Venus work for you really well. But if you're looking to showcase your individuality or get your individual dynamic in some way massaged, then Venus in the 6th house is a bit dry. You know, this is the part of the situation for you, which is to do with sacrifice, doing our best to help others. So it could mean covering for a shift, for a colleague at work. It may take on the part of a particular role that we don't find very attractive, but doing it for the greater good. So just be aware of that. But if you are single, you could meet someone in the most incredibly ordinary situation over the next few weeks. you know, whether it's changing after going to the gym or the pool or the health club, or at the golf club or the supermarket or the train station. These kind of everyday places is where you could have a conversation with someone that you actually find to be really, really lovely. But I think it's when Mars moves on the 20th that real excitement is injected into your relationship zone. But when Venus goes face to face with Pluto, as Mars will do on the 20th, that can also lead to some stormy scenes in an existing relationship which may not have that level of cooperation and collaboration which all the best ties have. Finally, we have Pisces. And Pisces, for you, Venus is beautiful in Cancer because it's a planet that's exalted in your sign, and therefore it's the 5th house. And this is a very strong location because the 5th house is very much about life's joys. It can be about pleasures, it can be about our children's pursuits and how well they're doing, but it can also be about our creative talents. But of course it is about marriage. So I'm not suggesting that you're going to get married in the next 28 days. And what I am saying, however, is that the joyfulness that comes from a really great relationship, which is quite difficult to sometimes find, but we have those moments, that's something that you could yearn for over the next month, or it could be something that you put in process if you meet somebody. Why not? Believe it's possible. With the Sun in a conjunction with Uranus, things can happen very quickly, particularly if you're connecting to people online. But with Pluto in house 12, just be aware, Saturn worked through this zone for 2.5 years. If you embraced Saturn's more difficult lessons, you will deal with Pluto better. If there's still stuff outstanding that you've yet to process or come to terms with, or get completely joined up about how you feel about yourself and your own identity, I feel that this transit of Pluto could expose some of those rankles, particularly in the early part of June when it does go opposite Pluto. So, but initially, if you go out on a date, it could be someone who lets you know that they're interested in you initially in a non-verbal way. So someone's body language could give away just how much they're hooked up to being drawn to what you've got to offer. But in an existing relationship, some hidden issues could bubble to the surface in the next few weeks. Doesn't mean to say they can't be dealt with, but an openness to deal with them will surely help. But generally speaking, your desire to go out and have fun, mix and mingle and socialise is really going to skyrocket, particularly through to the 20th of this month. It's been a real pleasure being with you. Thank you so much for joining me. Please do like, comment or subscribe. Take care and goodbye for now.